Campeche, a jewel of the Spanish Empire in the Caribbean, appeared secure behind its formidable walls and the crown's dominion over the seas. However, in the distance, something sinister loomed on the horizon. A treacherous alliance between French and English privateers was set to unleash a fierce assault, challenging the very limits of Spanish defense and leaving a path of destruction in its wake. The city, once flourishing with the trade of silver and precious goods, stood on the brink of its greatest trial. Yet in its bustling markets and lively streets, few suspected the impending doom. The atmosphere was filled with an air of invincibility, as if the walls surrounding them could thwart any threat. But fate, cruel and unyielding, had other plans in store for its unsuspecting inhabitants. As the masts of enemy vessels emerged through the mist, it became painfully clear that the hour of reckoning had arrived. Time slipped away like sand through fingers, and Campeche's destiny was already sealed. What lay ahead would quickly morph into a nightmare that would haunt the city for generations. The once vibrant streets soon echoed with the dreaded sounds of war, a cacophony that would shatter the illusion of safety. Cannon fire roared like thunder, marking the end of tranquility as the first salvos rang out across the bay. The moonlight cast a ghostly glow upon the surfaces of the ships and the defenders alike, illuminating both courage and fear. In that haunting light, the steel of swords glimmered, readying for the chaos that was about to unfold. The very essence of the Spanish Empire faced an unprecedented assault. No longer a distant threat, the marauding privateers unleashed their wrath, plundering riches and dismantling the very foundations of power that had ruled the seas for centuries. Their audacity shook the empire, revealing a vulnerability that had long gone unnoticed. Welcome to the channel. If you are intrigued by grand battles from history, be sure to subscribe and ring the bell so you won't miss any of our upcoming videos. The stories of valor and tragedy deserve to be told, and the siege of Campeche marks a crucial chapter in the annals of warfare and survival. The context before the attack. By the late 17th century, Spain maintained control over vast territories in the Americas, yet its naval fleet had begun to show signs of vulnerability. The once imposing armada was now a shadow of its former self, unable to fully secure its treasures and trade routes. Spanish riches, laden with gold, silver, and spices, had become a beacon, enticing pirates and privateers from across the seas. This vulnerability marked the beginning of a new era, one defined by audacity and relentless ambition on the part of those who sought to seize what had long been deemed Spanish property. Campeche, nestled on the Yucatan Peninsula, stood as a jewel amid the Caribbean's treacherous waters, making it a prime target for thieves of both the sea and the land. Renowned for its thriving trade in silver and precious woods, this coastal city was not only a vital economic center, but also a symbol of Spanish dominance in the region. The allure of Campeche's palatial wealth and storied riches lured countless marauders, each eager to plunder the treasures that had amassed over generations. The very essence of Campeche's prosperity made it an irresistible prize for anyone daring enough to challenge Spanish authority. In response to the constant threat posed by these marauders, the Spanish undertook great efforts to fortify the city. Imposing walls and formidable fortifications were erected, designed to deter even the most audacious of attacks. These structures, remnants of a bygone era, whispered tales of previous incursions, each leaving scars on the city's landscape. However, despite these defenses, the false sense of security lingered within Campeche. The Spanish, bolstered by their historical strength, remained blind to the reality that their walls, however sturdy, were insufficient against a relentless tide of determined invaders. As the Caribbean became a hotbed of piracy, French and English privateers grew bolder, driven by both private ambitions and the backing of rival governments seeking to undermine Spain's dominance. Their confidence surged, emboldened by their successes and the diminishing capabilities of the Spanish fleet. These marauders were no mere bandits. They were a coalition of seasoned fighters, drawing upon shared experiences and tactical ingenuity. With each successful raid, they honed their skills and strategies, preparing to strike at the heart of the Spanish Empire with a meticulously coordinated assault. Among these notorious figures were names that struck fear into the hearts of sailors and townsfolk alike. Pirates whose very existence embodied the spirit of rebellion against oppressive rule. United by a common purpose, these corsairs crafted plans that would redefine the nature of maritime warfare. The prime motivator was not solely wealth, but the intoxicating thrill of defiance steeped in bloodshed. Thus, the coming assault would surpass mere opportunistic looting. It bore the hallmarks of a well-orchestrated campaign, aimed at dismantling Spanish authority in the region. With the tendrils of fate tightening around Campeche, the air thickened with anticipation. The sea, while often a calm conduit for trade and travel, hinted at the tempest brewing in its depth. A storm was approaching, but it was not of the meteorological kind. Instead, it heralded the approach of relentless privateers, their hearts fueled by ambition and vengeance. The echoes of history reverberated through the waves, a solemn reminder that the tides of fortune could shift in an instant. With the city's destiny entwined with the darkness of coming strife, Campeche was poised on the precipice of an unparalleled clash, a fierce testament to the age-old struggle for dominance and survival amidst the ravages of greed and war. The leaders of the invasion. The attack on Campeche was not a spontaneous event. It was a meticulously crafted endeavor spearheaded by two of the most feared corsairs of the era, the Frenchman Laurent de Graff and the Englishman Nicholas van Hoorn. Their partnership was born not out of camaraderie, but from a shared ambition to amass wealth and notoriety through the ravaging of Spanish territories. With a history steeped in maritime chaos, these men prepared to unleash unprecedented havoc upon the Spanish stronghold. Laurent de Graff was a master strategist, a man whose reputation echoed across the Caribbean seas. He was known for his ferocity in battle and cunning schemes that often left his enemies scrambling in despair. Tales of his exploits circulated widely, instilling dread in the hearts of sailors and townsfolk alike. De Graff's approach to warfare was ruthless. He understood the psychology of fear and wielded it as a weapon as potent as any cannon. His crew, loyal and fiercely devoted, was equally adept at inflicting the kind of terror that crippled even the bravest of hearts. Opposite him stood Nicholas van Hoorn, a figure of relentless cruelty and precision. His methods were calculated and methodical, characterized by extortion, torture, and a relentless pursuit of valuable plunder. Van Hoorn had carved out his own notorious legacy through a string of successful raids, each marked by the systematic dismantling of his bold enemies. He was not merely a pirate, he was a tactician who saw combat through a lens of cruelty and profit. The moral shadows he cast loomed large over the waters. His name became synonymous with predatory success. Together, de Graff and van Hoorn assembled a formidable fleet, comprised of swift ships armed with dozens of cannons. Their vessels sliced through the waves, sinister harbingers of the chaos that was about to unfold in Campeche. This coalition of French and English corsairs represented a direct challenge to the Spanish crown, an audacious act that underscored the fragility of Spanish dominance in the New World. The very act of their convergence was a calculated gambit, one that stirred unease in the halls of power back in Spain. The alliance between these two unscrupulous leaders, however, was not forged in trust. It was temporary, driven solely by the tantalizing prospect of untold riches. Both men were acutely aware that after their endeavor at Campeche, their paths could diverge sharply, leading them to cross swords with one another. Amidst the tumult of their partnership, the specter of betrayal lingered, as each sought to outmaneuver the other for personal gain. Their ambition united them, but it also set the stage for inevitable conflict. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting shadows over the coastal city, Campeche braced itself for the impending storm. The residents, unaware of the terror that awaited them, went about their evening rituals, oblivious to the malice that was steered toward their shores. The Spanish defenses that had long stood as a bulwark against potential invaders were about to be tested like never before. The fusion of de Graff and Van Hoorn's destructive intentions heightened the stakes, for the lives and fortunes of countless individuals now hung in the balance. In this moment, the city stood on the precipice of disaster, confronted by an enemy as relentless as the tides. The initial attack and the ruin of Spanish defenses. In the early hours of July 6, 1685, a fleet of privateers advanced silently toward the shores of Campeche. The calm waters, reflecting the moonlight, concealed a nightmare that was about to awaken, ready to unleash chaos upon the unsuspecting city. The air was thick with an uneasy stillness, and the delicate balance of a peaceful night was about to be shattered. For the residents of this coastal enclave, the dawn would not bring the hope of a new day, but rather the harbinger of destruction and despair. With the tide favoring their attack, the invaders unleashed a barrage of cannon fire against the city's fortifications. The resounding booms reverberated throughout Campeche, awakening the inhabitants in a state of disarray. In those initial moments, fear transformed into panic as citizens rushed to comprehend the severity of the situation. Homes that had sheltered families for generations shook under the relentless assault, their walls bearing witness to the desperation of a besieged people. The cacophony of war drowned out the cries of the innocent, marking the beginning of a harrowing ordeal. The Spanish defenders, though aware of the growing danger, found themselves at an overwhelming disadvantage. Their forces, already stretched thin and poorly equipped, crumbled under the onslaught. As the privateers landed, a brutal combat ensued in the streets of Campeche, where the sanctity of the city was sacrificed at the altar of greed and ambition. The cries of the defenders merged with the clash of steel, creating a symphony of chaos as hope began to fade with each passing moment. The organization and fierceness of the attackers caught the Spanish by surprise. Like a well-oiled machine, the privateers moved in tightly knit groups, coordinating their efforts with ruthless efficiency. They swiftly eliminated unsuspecting guards, capturing strategic points within the city before reinforcements could make their presence known. This calculated approach demonstrated the invaders' intent to seize control swiftly, highlighting a stark contrast against the fragmented and disoriented response of the defenders. It was a meticulously planned operation unfolding in front of the city's eyes, and everything appeared futile for those fighting to protect their home. As the governor of Campeche issued the order for a robust resistance, a sense of dread enveloped the atmosphere. His troops had fought valiantly, but they were met with a precision that rendered their efforts almost meaningless. The privateers' assault was not merely an act of robbery. It was a well-planned execution of vengeance against Spanish dominance, leaving no room for errors or lapses in strategy. One by one, the defenders fell, their resolve eroding under the relentless pressure of the invaders. By the time the sun cast its first rays over the horizon, Campeche lay in ruins, surrendered to the forces of destruction. The once vibrant city, full of life and culture, stood at the mercy of those who sought not just to conquer, but to obliterate. The reality of the situation emerged stark and clear, a bitter truth of loss and devastation looming over the rubble. The inevitable onset of pillage was palpable, signaling the tragic swan song for a community that would never be the same. The dark legacy of that fateful morn would echo through history, a reminder of the fragility of life in the face of greed and rage. The sacking of Campeche. As the city surrendered to the invaders, the corsairs unleashed their unrestrained fury upon the unsuspecting populace. Houses, churches, and warehouses became the target of their relentless scavenging, each corner of the city stripped of any signs of wealth. The relentless search for gold and silver ignited a frenzy among the marauders as they rummaged through the remnants of what had once been the heart of Campeche. In their wake, they left nothing but chaos, turning a vibrant community into a battlefield marked by desperation and fear. Amidst the pandemonium, the city's citizens were forcibly gathered in the main square, their fates hanging in the balance. With a grim determination, the corsairs demanded the surrender of all valuables, leaving the people with a stark choice: comply or face the brutal consequences. For those who resisted, the price was steep, and execution loomed as the inevitable fate. The atmosphere thickened with dread as screams echoed down the cobblestone streets, a lament for the lives upended in a heartbeat. The alliance between the corsair leaders, Van Hoorn and de Graff, soon frayed under the weight of their differing ideologies. Van Hoorn, fueled by a desire to eradicate any potential threat, insisted that executing the prisoners was the only feasible solution. This perspective resonated with the fear of retaliation. Surely, leaving no survivors would secure their future endeavors. On the contrary, de Graff, who approached their assault with a more pragmatic viewpoint, argued for the preservation of life. By keeping the prisoners alive, there remained an opportunity to extract ransom and bolster their fortunes further. This clash of ideals sowed discord between the two leaders, setting the stage for internal strife amid the chaos of conquest. In the shadow of power struggles, the pervasive terror continued to grip the streets of Campeche. Each passing hour bore witness to the destruction of cherished monuments, architectural marvels that symbolized the city's legacy. The corsairs, driven by greed and bloodlust, displayed no mercy as they laid waste to centuries of cultural heritage. Buildings that had withstood the test of time crumbled under the weight of marauding hands, burying the rich history of Campeche beneath a cloak of ash and ruin. With every precious artifact seized, the corsairs bore witness to the unraveling of a once thriving community. The riches amassed over decades vanished into the lair of the invaders, swallowed whole without a trace. The vibrant tapestry of life that had flourished in Campeche now stood as a haunting reminder of ambition turned savage, a mere echo of the laughter that once filled its streets. Families were torn apart, dreams and aspirations reduced to nothing more than fleeting memories. As the last embers of resistance flickered out, the city that once stood proud lay in utter devastation. The aftermath of the corsair onslaught transformed Campeche into a chilling tableau of desolation, where remnants of hope were buried beneath the debris of shattered lives. What had been a prosperous center of culture and trade became synonymous with tragedy and despondency. The cries of the fallen lingered in the air, haunting the silent streets that would remember the day the light was stolen from them. The conflict between corsairs and the departure. As the ships, laden with the treasures of Campeche, sailed through the tranquil waters, the once unified alliance of French and English pirates began to splinter. The seductive whisper of greed engulfed the corsairs, leading them to betray the bonds they had forged in the heat of battle. They reveled in their ill-gotten gains, oblivious to the dark clouds of discord looming overhead. With every hoard of gold and silver, old loyalties faltered, paving the way for ambition to eclipse camaraderie. Tensions erupted when Van Hoorn, emboldened by the lust for wealth, ordered the execution of the captured prisoners. His ruthless command ignited a firestorm of outrage in de Graff, who believed in preserving life amidst chaos. This clash of ideologies spiraled into an inevitable duel, as passion and principle collided in a tragic dance of fate. Their swords became instruments of both honor and betrayal, reflecting the moral decline of their union. The air crackled with animosity as they stood poised for conflict, their former alliance dissolving into thin air. In the midst of their fiery argument, tragedy struck. Van Hoorn, in a moment of vulnerability, was wounded during the heated exchange. The grim reality of his injury loomed over him like a dark shroud. Although initially defiant, his condition deteriorated rapidly over the following days. In a cruel twist of fate, he succumbed to his injuries before he could escape the ruins of Campeche. The swift march of death served as a reminder of the perilous path they had chosen, where glory often came at a staggering cost. With Van Hoorn's demise, de Graff found himself asserting control over the remnants of the expedition. It was a bittersweet victory. The spoils of their conquest lay before him, yet the glory felt hollow in light of recent events. The once vibrant city of Campeche was now a desolate graveyard of shattered dreams and smoldering ruins. Knowing that the city had been thoroughly plundered, de Graff made the fateful decision to depart. Leaving behind the remnants of their shared brutality, he faced the horizon, aware that a legacy of chaos awaited him beyond the waves. The audacious raid on Campeche would etch itself into the annals of piratical history. It represented not only a monumental blow to the Spanish Empire, but also a demonstration of the corsairs' insatiable ambition. The attack unveiled the vulnerability of once unassailable Spanish forts and the tenacity of those who defied their reign. In this tumultuous period, the audacity of the pirates soared, while the Spanish felt the sting of shame and humiliation. They had underestimated the boldness and cunning of these marauders. Yet the Spanish Empire, proud and vengeful, would not allow this affront to pass unchallenged. A storm brewed on the horizon, and revenge would soon be their rallying cry. The winds of retribution began to blow, promising to hunt down each participant in the assault on Campeche. In the face of this impending wrath, the corsairs reveled in their ill-gotten glory, but remained blissfully unaware that their fortunes would soon unravel. The tempest of vengeance was gathering strength, and the seeds of their doom were being sown with every glimmer of gold they boasted. The tale of Campeche stands as a haunting reminder that empires, no matter how formidable, are never immune to the tides of change. The Spanish, confident in their dominance over the New World, found themselves confronted by an unexpected alliance of French and English pirates. In their quest for wealth and glory, these marauders did not merely raid a city, they disrupted the very foundation of Spanish authority. The siege of Campeche, with the clash of swords and the roar of cannon fire, illustrates the harsh reality that power cannot be taken for granted. As the smoke cleared and the echoes of battle faded away, it became clear that ambition carries its own gravitas, often leading to unforeseen consequences. In reflecting on this historical event, we are reminded of the fragile nature of control and dominance. The wealthy Spanish merchants, who once tasted the sweet fruits of power and prosperity, learned a bitter lesson in vulnerability. As flames engulfed their ships and walls, the weight of their hubris was revealed. The alliance of pirates, driven by greed and a spirit of rebellion, revealed that the quest for power often comes at a steep price, accompanied by suffering, loss, and chaos. The siege of Campeche demonstrates that history is replete with shifting allegiances, and those who fail to recognize the impermanence of their reign are often the first to feel its sting. We hope you found this video informative and engaging, shedding light on a riveting chapter of maritime history. If you enjoyed the narratives woven through these events, consider subscribing to our channel, giving us a thumbs up, and sharing this video with others. By doing so, you will help us continue to bring you tales of adventure, bravery, and the relentless spirit of exploration. Now don't hesitate. Click on the video now appearing on your screen and delve deeper into the remarkable stories that shaped the age of piracy.